I want you guys to look back a year from now and say, yeah, I just focused. I just did what I said I was going to do. I focused on the biggest problem and I avoided everything, avoided all of the other distractions. That's what I want for you a year from now, 3 months from now, next week. And the more that you can look back on where you came from, and at least for the next 6, 12, probably 24 months at least, if your answer is that, I did more of the right stuff, which meant less, and I did it more consistently, and it kept getting better. I think all of the goals that you probably have for yourself, you'll hit, and you'll exceed all of your expectations. Honestly, I have no idea how the conversation got started, but a buddy Brian of mine who is doing multiple seven figures in his coaching business reached out to me, and we were just texting back and forth about all things life and business. And he had asked about how business was going. And, for us personally, we've basically since March have had back to back, however many months it is from March till now, record months, both in cash generated, cash collected, in client success results shared, all of the things. And I'm not saying that to brag or anything. I'm sharing that for the context of the conversation, because he was asking how things were going. And I had said, things are great. Our team is growing. Our media buyer is getting onboarded this week, which is our 9th team member. We have a sales admin starting in the next couple of weeks, which will be our 10th team member. We need to hire a video editor, which will be our 11th team member. What's going on, Conde? And so our team is growing, and I was like, things are good. And then he didn't know that, I don't think he knew that we had our daughter. So I was like, and we have a new daughter. And he's like, dude, this is amazing. All great stuff. What's going on, Danny? And so the conversation actually, after I shared how things were going, he was just like, well, the conversation kept flowing, and then he kind of circled back in the conversation, and I'm pulling it up here. And he asked a super simple but interesting question. And I notice smart people ask these questions. And he said, regarding your business going so well, what's changed for you in the last year to send things on such a positive trajectory? I'm going to say that again, because you can be asking people this question. And he said, regarding your business going so well, what's changed for you in the last year to send things on such a positive trajectory? Now, was it this time last year? About a year ago. It might be a little less than a year. It might be a little over a year. I had spent 3 days with him on a houseboat, and we were masterminding with a bunch of other people, or a small group of other guys. And we were just chatting about, what the biggest focus was on our business. And so he had context about, where I was last year, hence I think partly where that question came from. But he's a very inquisitive person. So he asked, well, what happened? What do you kind of attribute that success to? And again, really kind of a simple question, but I stopped for a minute and I had to think about it. And because to me, from the last time we were hanging out, a lot has changed, but also very little has changed in regards to what I was doing. Obviously, the results have grown dramatically since the last time I was with him. But literally, I just said, great question. We focused only on the biggest bottleneck. And I think the timing with our messaging with COVID, which actually was the same message we've had for the last 3 years, seemed to strike a chord with our audience. So I've been saying the same thing for 3 years, and now everyone understands why. I'm like, but other than that, that's all I've done is continued talking about what we've been talking about for the last 3+ years and focused only on our biggest bottleneck. And he said, haha, that's great. And I said, what about you? And because his business is, revenue wise above ours, a larger team. You ask him about certain parts of his business and he won't even know the answer because he has a larger managerial team than I do. And he said, similar focus, cut one product line, doubled down on our primary, adjusted messaging for COVID. And I said, which did you cut? He cut his low ticket offers. And he said, so we just went all in on our coaching program and we got clear on our long-term vision. And he goes, that usually tends to refine things. And it got me thinking really like the rest of the weekend about, and I've said this in different ways time and time again, the biggest thing that was holding us back, and I think holding many of you back and will continue to hold many of you back unless you do something about it, is to just focus on doing less, but doing it better and more consistently. And I talk to, I talk to a lot of people that are doing way more than me, multiple 7 figures, 8 figures. And I pay to be around these people, and also blessed to have built a lot of friendships with these people, peer groups and such. And the conversations that you have at this level are literally all about doing less, and focusing on less. And when I look at, the businesses that I look up to, and, other like entrepreneurs building, consulting, coaching businesses, the hybrid agency models that, have inspired us. Most of them have that are over 7 figures have 1 to 2 products. That's it. Like 1 to 2 offerings. And that's all they sell each and every year, over and over and over again. And they get better. They improve on them. They improve on their messaging. And through that, they scale. And then they get in front of more people. And so they have more people to serve. And it's just getting better and focusing on fewer things. And, we've done a lot. We've worked on a lot, but all of the things that we have been working on have really been tied to, 1 to 2 bottlenecks that are, preventing us from getting seeing the next problem. And it got me thinking about the depth in which at least we've approached things versus the breadth that I think a lot of other people approach things. And, I think inherently many of you are going to struggle with the challenge of really like not offering up custom solutions for every client just because it's money. And that's going to, in some cases, be a short-term revenue loss for you, but to position you for long-term profitable gain. And that's why, you see me like kind of do the balancing act kind of with my hands a lot, because it's a balancing act. Like you add 1 to 2 or 3 of the new right ideal client, and that's 1 or 2 of the old clients that you don't need to accept anymore. The challenge is if you keep accepting both, you're just taking on more than you actually need. And it's funny, I was on we work with a team that helps coach our sales team. And I have a one-on-one call periodically with my point of contact there. And, I was just bringing up like my biggest bottleneck, and he's like, all right, well, what are you going to do about that? And I was like, we're already doing all of the things that like tactically you could be doing to improve on this. It's just doing them better. And he's like, he just made a comment of like, yeah, you don't actually, he's like, you could go talk to everybody about what they're doing tactically. He's like, but you're already doing all of the things. He's like, so you don't need, he's like, you're not going to close that gap that you have right now. Tactically, it's just going to be tweaking and refining the thing that you already have. And I think, why I'm sharing this to many of you is like just to caution you on when something is moving slower or something is not, you're not getting the result as fast as you want because life and business is not a one click and now all of a sudden you're successful kind of game, that you're going to be tempted to go and try something different and add something new to the mix. And likely it is going to be a new tactic or a new coaching program or hire a new person or whatever it is. And the jumping from thing to thing to thing, thinking that it's the thing that is actually the new thing or the different thing that is going to make the difference is wrong. And that won't make sense to you right now, but I've made this mistake time and time again. And I can tell you, the deeper you go with us, and that's not a sales tactic. Like, I've jumped from coach to coach to coach. The deeper you go with us, like, you'll find the momentum. There will be ups and downs. There will be lulls where you'll probably say, man, like, should I not be in a coaching program right now, or should I be doubling down on something else? And it's like, that's really the wrong question that you should be asking. It's like jumping from new coach to new coach, from thing to thing, is the same as like, ooh, this webinar didn't work, or email's dead, so I'm going to go do this. And so I want you guys to start thinking about depth in all areas of your business and life, where it is really just about how can you like do less in total of the things that you're doing, but do the things that you're doing a whole lot better with more intention. Like, we're going back and we're rewriting all of our emails that follow up on our follow-up campaign. Like, I can rewrite those emails and work on making those emails better and convert better, like over and over and over again, versus, oh, I'm going to scrap that whole thing altogether, right? Because as you start doing these things, the improvements, the small improvements, you've probably all heard of the term Kaizen. It's like the compounding of small improvements. Like, if you improve small things every single day, over time, it's going to have a huge impact. And like, when I think about the conversation I had with my friend on text message, how we started this conversation, I have yet to miss a week where we've released a YouTube video. My YouTube videos have gotten better. It's gotten easy. My process for creating the YouTube videos has gotten better. The messaging that we've shared has gotten clearer because we haven't stopped messaging. We message multiple times a week. I go live. I practice. I was thinking about all of these things, and it's like, I haven't really been adding a whole lot of new things. I've been trying to transfer things that I've been doing to other people. Like, Greg was the only one selling. I don't need a whole new sales process. I don't need a whole new sales style. I need someone to duplicate those efforts. So we bring on Larry and Mike, and they're selling, and they're taking their style with our process, molding it together, and you have this new thing that is really just built off of the thing that I've been doing over and over and over again for the last 3+ years. So think about depth, and how can you go deeper in all that you do? How can you commit to doing less? How can you just focus on a few things at a time? And look, we're guilty of this too. And like, all of the people that have been rolling into Academy, we've had a handful of you that have upgraded into Academy, and like, open kimono like moment, like, we have these kickoff calls, and I'm like, yeah, you only need to do these two things right now, and like, report back. To me, sometimes I'm like, oh, they probably feel like that they were expecting more. And like, that's the story I start telling myself, like, ooh, I need to give them more things to do so that they feel that because I told them that they need to do these 5 things, that now it's more valuable to be in the program. When really it's like, that's just a bunch of BS. It's like, you need to focus on these 2 things. Until you've mastered these 2 things, you don't need to be doing anything else. And we're going to be here to support you and provide tools and provide feedback and, critique you and give you guidance and mentorship on improving those things and staying the course. Because I'll tell you, that's what I didn't have in some of the programs that I was in, where someone's like, if someone just said, I know it's not working the way you expect it to be working just yet, but trust me, just keep going. Like, give it more time, tweak how you're doing it. Don't change the thing you're doing, but do it just a little bit, like, refine it. Like, how can you do that better? How can you make that easier for you? How can you make that easier for your team? And like, that's what it's all about. And so like, I'm personally battling my own, my own demons of like, ooh, I just told them that they only needed to do these 2 things. There should be more. Will they devalue the experience because there's only 2 things that they need to focus on? And, that's my own stuff, but I know you guys are probably dealing with that too. And it is like, you just got to do less. You have to refine and focus and go deeper on the few things that are important right now. And when I looked back on, when I was approaching this conversation with you guys, I wanted to think about where was I when I was more closely in your shoes, which was not too long ago, where this still applies. And it's going to be in that transition of focusing on dialing in your signature service and selling that, and avoiding selling anything but that. And there's going to be a little bit of give and take. There's going to be a little bit of, well, I'm going to take this one done for you client. That's not exactly what I want to be doing, but it's a means to the end, because I'm not going to do X, Y, Z in 3 months from now. And like giving yourself that vision of, by this date, I will no longer take these types of projects because I'm only taking them for money right now. And in the interim, I'm going to be focused on doing the thing that I want to be doing, serving who I want to be serving, getting my signature service up to speed. And so when I kind of look back on your situation, it's like the more that you can choose and commit to doing less and fighting the urge to say yes to that deal that is more about money than it is about working on the right thing, the faster you will progress through this journey. We spent 6 months trying to please legacy clients when we could have spent those 6 months on just getting more of the new clients that we were having no problem getting. We just couldn't take on enough of the new clients because we were still trying to cater to the legacy clients. And if you listen back on my YouTube video and my podcast, there's an episode where I talk about sometimes you have to let the old die in order for the new to be born. And that is going to be a part of this journey for you guys as you focus on depth and not, going wider and expanding too wide. You can have multiple revenue streams, but multiple is like 2 to 3. Like multiple doesn't mean you need to have 15 different ways you make money, especially with where all of you guys are at. Most consulting hybrid business models that I know that are doing 7 figures plus have 1 to 2 offerings. And it wasn't only until they were like consistently doing, 300, 500K a month where they added on a third thing or a fourth thing, or they started doing a lot of the stuff that you see people doing. They did that well after they were doing 7 figures. So my message to you today, because now this has turned into a rant, is, look, I want you guys to look back a year from now and say, yeah, I just focused. I just did what I said I was going to do. I focused on the biggest problem and I avoided all of the other distractions. That's what I want for you a year from now, 3 months from now, next week. And the more that you can look back on where you came from, and at least for the next 6, 12, probably 24 months at least, if your answer is that, I did more of the right stuff, which meant less, and I did it more consistently and it kept getting better, I think all of the goals that you probably have for yourself, you'll hit and you'll exceed all of your expectations. You just got to stay focused on the depth.